Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joire, and today is Friday, October 6, 2023. And I've got the excellent Ron Richards here of Android Faithful. Hi, Ron, how are you?
Hey, Miriam. Wow, you're flattering with your introduction there. I'm doing well. I'm exhausted after Pixel Week, but we're here and excited to be here with you. So.
Well, guess what? I'm going to exhaust you more because I want to talk Pixel.
Let's do it.
Look, I mean, I have to be flattering. I used to do all about Android with you back in the day sometimes. Yep. And I kind of miss you, man. It's been so long.
I know, we're reunited. I love it. We saw each other recently at an event, and we're like, hey, let's do. We got new podcast. You've got your podcast, so we've got the new podcast at Android Faithful, and I love the reunion here. So yeah.
I know, it's fantastic. I was like, I got to do this. This is great. Yep. So we're gonna mostly talk about Pixel. There's a few other leaks and rumors, and some Samsung news that is completely eclipsed by the Pixel stuff, obviously.
Yep.
But also some interesting developments with the OnePlus Open that we're seeing. So it's basically the show, but I think most of it's going to be spent on the Pixel 8 series and the watch and stuff. So I want to preface this real quick by saying, if somebody from Google's listening, I love you guys. I daily drive my Pixel. I've been doing that since the Nexus days, and I'm having a very hard time getting devices from you guys. So if you can help with that, that would be fantastic. I'm only bringing this up because I'm really just jealous of Ron, because Ron got the devices.
I was lucky enough. I am under embargo, though. Still, the embargo is up until the.
Well, let's talk about what we know that's public. What was announced at the event. Let's not talk about reviews or anything.
I understand that. And to share, I have gotten the devices. It's been such a busy week. I have not set them up yet. So I've looked at them, and I think they're very pretty and good looking, but I haven't actually done anything. So all my opinions are all based everything that we saw from the presentation and from the follow up support. But wow, big showing by Google this week, right?
My goal is to just get a feel for, since I haven't had hands-on, what your first impressions are.
Yep.
And, we're not going to discuss anything that you can't discuss. So, what is your kind of gut feeling on the whole thing?
Well, I mean, I got to say, it definitely, we talked about this a little bit on Android Faithful this past week. I don't know whether to applaud Google for their approach in basically stealing all the speculation from us by just showing us everything before the event. All right. Or I don't know if that's something that they should be, kind of rewarded for or chastised for.
They've been doing it for so long, right? They seem to leak their own stuff, it feels like.
Well, because that's the thing. If you look at all of us people who like to talk about all this stuff on a daily, hourly, weekly basis, we love the leaks and we love like the reveals and things like that. But Google basically plays us every year in that I think that they control what comes out, and they released a lot of those sneak peeks. And so going into these events, I'm always like, on one hand, it's relieving because I know what to expect. We knew we were going to see the Pixel 8. We knew we were going to see the Pixel 8 Pro. We knew we were going to see the Pixel Watch 2, right? We knew about the Pixel Buds, all that sort of stuff. But I'm always waiting for what is the surprise. And that part of this is Apple's fault, because they, 15 years ago, Steve Jobs trained us to want the next thing, like the one more thing. Yeah. But I always want to see what kind of they're going to surprise us with. But ever since I/O, I feel like the need for what is the surprise going to be has now been circumvented by how is Google going to work AI into this presentation. And this presentation was no different, right?
So do you feel that is that the star of the show for you, AI here?
Well, it's not by itself. I think it's basically what, you've got Google in the Pixel line, powered by the Tensor 3 chip, using all the machine learning that Google has been building that they showed us at I/O, and the end, it's like a math equation, and like the end result is equals, your experience of being a Pixel user, right? And and they always lean on the Google Photos and the AI stuff in the photos, and with Magic Eraser a couple of years ago. But like, did you see that the best shot or whatever it is? I showed that so for people listening, this is the AI based thing where you can take a photo with the Pixel 8 and take a burst of photos and then choose the best head of the subject of your photos to make one photo that looks perfect, which as a parent of two toddlers that
it's amazing.
It's an amazing thing. I showed my wife that and she her jaw dropped and she said, I'm literally freaked out now. Like it's crazy what they can do now.
So let's talk about that, because I think this is a very interesting, there's so many things here. The first thing to me, the first gut feeling I had is, okay, so burst is the solution, right? Because it sounds like you have to take 3 or 4 photos, right, to get it right.
Yep.
And my gut was, why doesn't it automate that? Why doesn't it just, like it does all that multi-frame stuff? Why doesn't it just push the shutter button and it does the 4 frames it needs? I guess it wants more time between the frames probably to get a better sampling, right?
Yeah.
But burst, I guess, is the solution. You hit burst and you get a bunch, and then it can pick. The thing that I find a bit freaky, to be honest with you, like I get the idea that, you want to pick, best faces and make a photo of your family that looks awesome.
Yep.
But it kind of feels a little uncanny valley, like the way it bends the necks and stuff sometimes. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Yep.
Maybe I have to use it a little bit because I don't have it, obviously. But it's, yeah, it's a bit weird.
You're not wrong. I mean, like when they rolled out Magic Eraser, I remember back on All About Android, Jason doing it and how we had like weird artifacting with chain link fences and like stuff like that. Like, here's the thing. It's like the AI stuff is really cool and the demo makes it look like this wonderful world where Google technology is making everything better. But the practical use of it, we often find is not what the demo video is. It's not exactly what they show in the demo video. So I'm excited to dig into it and check it out and see for myself whether it gives me better pictures of my kids who I can't get them to look at the camera at the same time and smile. But we'll see. But overall, you can't. I can't knock Google for a solid presentation. This past Wednesday of the next lineup of the platform of the 8th generation or the Pixel 8. I think it was solid and delivered. Minus any sort of big surprise or any jaw dropping aside from the AI stuff. Like everything was to be expected, so to speak. I guess. Right. So
I think you're right. I mean, for me, the thing that stands out with Magic Eraser, 2 years in now, is that these texture issues, like the fences, the patterns, like you'd think that would be something AI can just nail. Like it sees the pattern in the picture. Like how can it not get that right?
Isn't that what AI is supposed to do? Like look for patterns and
Number 2, the other thing that strikes me about this this new feature and other AI features, like the one that now, I don't think it's out right away, but the one that will extend a picture.
Yep.
So if you have a 4:3, you can turn it into a 16:9, which is really useful for me to do thumbnails for YouTube, for example, right? Because I shoot everything at 4:3 and then I screw myself over because I don't have enough room for my 16:9s.
Well, have you seen Photoshop's generative fill
mode?
Yeah. Like, oh man, this stuff is getting really wild. It's
right. So now we have this on our phones. It's going to be easier to use than Photoshop, which I think is great. Although Photoshop is easy, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's on your phone, it's an app.
It's not, not everybody. It's not for everybody. So,
right. So my question to you on this is, what is real? Like, I mean, photography has always been subjective that way. Like you could argue that the moment you put a lens and capture on film or capture on a sensor of some kind, an image, you are interpreting the scene. You are adding those filters of the lens, filters of the sensor, filters of the image processing. How far does it go before we all look at each other and go, this is too far? And I think that was Neil was asking. And I'm not sure. I'm starting to freak out a little bit, but not because I'm into the tech and I've always been a bit avant-garde in terms of photography. I've always been willing to let the AI do its thing, but now I'm starting to wonder, like if you can start moving people around in the shot,
what is real?
What is real? And not only that, but the question becomes, do you want to remove all the people and cars from your shots? Why does it have to be so perfect? What about you look at old pictures. I don't know if you've looked at your photo albums when we were a kid. Like I still have the printed ones because I'm that old.
Oh, me too. Me too. Yep.
You see the motion blur of the people walking in the background, and it adds character and ambiance to the shot. It gives it a life. Yep. And I'm worried that, like, I'm very tempted to remove people in the photos I take with Magic Eraser, and I sometimes do. But at the same time, should we?
Right.
know?
Well, yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, like me and my sister have all of our photo albums from vacations in the 80s and the 70s, stuff like that. And like seeing pictures of us is great, but it's more fun looking at everyone in the background and look at what those people are wearing and all that sort of stuff.
I know.
I saw that same article that you mentioned. I think it was on The Verge. I forgot who wrote it, but it was like, it was basically saying, Google is doing great stuff with AI that is just up to the edge of acceptable. Right. And it really makes you wonder how much, like if you take a burst of 20 photos of your kids in the moment and then you composite the best everyone smiling photo, is that truly the moment? Or is the moment when you tried to take a family picture and the one kid couldn't stop making a funny face and that's what you ended up with? Like, I kind of like the latter versus the former in that world. Like, and it kind of, now we're getting kind of out of technology, but it kind of represents
but this is important stuff, right?
Exactly. It's cultural. It's cultural, right?
Because we've been discussing this when it comes to like generative AI writing stuff, but now we're getting to generative AI photography, not just in an editing sense, but in an actual capturing sense, which is crazy.
I think the cultural angle is that we're now we're 20 years in, 20 plus years into this internet world, or 15 or so years into the social media era, right, which is about to cross into the paid era, but that's another topic. But like one of the byproducts of the last 5 to 8 years of social media has been the presence of an Instagram life, right, where people are manufacturing the external presentation of their life to be this perfect kind of thing, which we all know life is not perfect and it's full of imperfections, right? And so, and I feel like these photo tools allows someone to continue to put the picture perfect photo of their family to show how everything is perfect. Like it's, like the Simpsons in the Simpsons opening when they do the family picture and the picture is Homer strangling Bart. Like that's life, right? And I'd rather have that be my family photo than everyone. But it's still, but I can't deny the cool factor of the fact that the technology can do it, right? So
exactly. But at the same time, I feel like right now we're still okay in the sense that we can choose to do it or not.
Correct.
Right?
You have choice.
So it's not done for us. We have to push a button to do it. So that I think, is good.
And going back to what I said earlier about Google's presentation videos versus real life, using Google Photos and using Magic Eraser or Best Take or all these other ones might be a push of a button and be easier than using Photoshop to manipulate a photo, but it still requires the user to do it. And not only, like you said, to make the choice, but to have the skill to do it. And I got to tell you, Miriam, if you follow me on social, like I am not nearly the photographer that you are, that half the other friends are out there. And I have the same tools, and there still is a human factor of creating something that is nice, or in my case, that is just barely passable. But it's still capturing that moment. So,
I think you have to have the eye. Sometimes for me, it's just, I'm walking and I see a shot and I just stop and I walk back a couple of steps. I'm like, boom, do that. And then of course it doesn't always come out right. Like sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I'm seeing a 3x telephoto version of what the phone is doing. And then now it's not going to be as good because I don't have a phone with 3x or whatever. Right. I mean, that's less of a problem nowadays, but that was always an issue in the past. Or, it should be wider or whatever, and my ultra wide is maxing out. Anyway, but the point is, I think let's talk about briefly, the things we know, because obviously all the rumors have been kind of confirmed. To me, the takeaway is Tensor G3, right? We'll talk about that a little bit. The flat screen on the Pro, which is a new thing. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because I want to hear about, like, is it wider because of that? Because, the 6 Pro and the 7 Pro are pretty big phones to start with.
Right.
And then I want to hear about bezels and things like that. And then the next thing I want to talk about is maybe a bit of the camera hardware, because some interesting discoveries have been made today about what sensor it might be using. And then, I don't know, the rest is pretty much... It's a Pixel. The price has gone up on the Pro, correct?
The prices did go up. And then also what I think is one of the biggest thing is the 7-year support.
Well, that we need to talk about for sure, 100%. So what are the prices around? $699 and $999, right?
Right, I think so. Yeah, let me pull it up. But I think
that's the same price for the 8 that it was the 7 originally. But the 8 Pro is now $100 more because it used to be $899.
Yep. So
that's a good spread now, because we got 7A at $499, right? I think. And then, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean it's the price creep across Google's hardware stuff is happening, and it's actually funny because I had a conversation with my father the other day, who is also into technology and that sort of stuff, and I was talking about the prices, and I was saying how this phone costs this, and the Google stuff is going to be more expensive, and he's like, "Yeah, but who cares?" He's like, don't most people just go? Don't most people go into a carrier, pick a phone, and then pay a monthly rate, right? So like you and I, like I haven't gone with a phone through a carrier in over a decade. I buy my own phone, I get it unlocked, I pay full price, but like we're in the minority, right? And so 100%. Like does the fact that the Pixel Pro now costs $999, $1,000 for the Google's flagship, when I was chastising Samsung 4 years ago for having their flagship be at $1,000, right? But doesn't matter, if you're a Verizon customer, you're already getting a price break, right? They're or you're already getting the subsidized price and all that sort of stuff. So, I don't know if the price hike it's very good for headlines and it's good for writing, but does it have a practical impact on the consumer? So.
Not really, but I just wanted to mention it for the audience, right?
Totally,
like they know. Yeah. I feel like did they change the base storage though at all? Because that's the one thing that I feel is a bit lacking.
Yeah, I think they must have. I'm trying to pull up the 7 specs.
I think it's 128 or is it 256? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
I'm looking it up.
As am I. Here we are. Nothing like so $999 and 128 gig of storage. So
wow, that's a little of a bummer, honestly.
Yeah, especially So basically, you've got what is interesting though is that you've got 4 options now. You could do the 128 gig at the base at $999. You can go up to 256. That brings up to $1059. 512 for $1179. But they are offering 1 terabyte for $1399.
That is new.
Which they've honestly, never done that before.
256 for $50 more is probably worth it.
Yeah, agreed.
In my opinion.
But it's also interesting, like I'm looking on store.google.com and you choose your carrier and, you can get it unlocked for that price, or you go Google Fi and you pay, $27 a month for 36 months. And the same thing on Verizon, AT&T, that's $27 a month isn't too bad, but,
is the Fi phone locked or unlocked though? I think it's unlocked.
I think the Fi phones are unlocked, I believe. Yeah.
Which is nice. So maybe, think about that if you want a subsidy, folks.
Also interesting to note that the 1 terabyte option is only available in the obsidian color. It's not available in bay or
blue,
porcelain.
Come on, let's talk about the blue. The blue is the best.
The blue is very nice. The blue is very, very nice.
It's kind of frosted, right? Or matte or something?
I do like it. It does have a subdued pastel nature to it. How's that? Right? Like it almost feels like a, blue chalk that has been like run out over a chalkboard. Like it reminds me of that, so,
but I like that it's not shiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's kind of hot. I'm a bit bummed that they lost what we have on 7 Pro and Pixel Fold, the separation of the oval with the dot, like the exclamation mark, where the cameras are separated a little bit. Now it's one oval on the Pro, not oval and a dot, if you know what I'm saying, for the part that's not metal and the camera visor. Right. And I like that. And now it's harder to tell them apart from a distance.
Yes.
Other than the temperature sensor, And I'm a bit bummed by that. I really kind of dug the fact that they were distinguishing them through the camera visor, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that, but I don't know. But I like the new visor. I love the look they roll. This look.
Oh,
this,
yeah.
It reminds me of Star Trek, right? Like it's got a very Star Trek-y kind of look to it. So that doesn't upset me as much. I do think I still think it's a good look, and it differentiates itself from everybody else in the market.
100%.
Yeah.
What's the deal with the temperature sensor?
What is the deal with the temperature sensor? That's a great question.
Like it's not FDA approved, so you can measure the temperature of a corpse legally, but not of a human. Yep. I'm kidding. You can obviously do it, just don't expect it to be accurate. There's no laws here. It's just it's not FDA approved. But why? Did they say why?
I don't remember them saying why. My thought is that with all of the new technology that we're seeing of, like some of the updates that they made to the, the new sensors in the Pixel Watch 2 and things like that, adding the temperature sensor now opens up a dimension of enabling thermometer apps and being able to use it in the kitchen, and like what is the temperature of the food or whatever it might be, and this. It's another way to differentiate the Pro from the non-Pro, right? It's like, well, the Pixel 8 doesn't have the temperature sensor. Like it's like I almost feel like Google got a great deal on a shipping crate of temperature sensors.
Yeah, like, and just Samsung saying to them, "Hey, we've got all these. You want them?"
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
sure.
the example they gave in the blog post is like, check the temperature of your baby's milk to make sure it's the right temperature with your phone, which is like, all right, my kids are 4 now. I don't deal with bottles anymore. But at the time, the last thing I was doing was getting my phone out to check the temperature of the bottle. So
yeah,
it's wild.
I feel like it's a bit weird. I would have liked a FLIR camera sensor. That would have been more useful. You could actually get, measure the temperature of things and get a thermal photo, basically.
Right.
Like some phones have done, some rugged phones like the Cat phones. But hey, whatever, it's there.
Well, so what I think is also interesting though, like what they do mention in their blog post, they said they've submitted an application to the FDA to enable the thermometer app to take your temperature and save it to Fitbit.
Oh, cool. That's actually pretty neat.
So that could be pretty neat. And also like having kids taking temperature, it's a nightmare now and all this sort of stuff, but also your own temperature and all, like I mentioned, the Pixel Watch 2 with the integration with Fitbit, we're seeing more sensors and more data points driving into Fitbit for this total health kind of approach. So,
and for that, it makes sense, but I feel like it must be a pretty cheap sensor. So why not put down the 8 as well?
Differentiator.
Yeah, I suppose. So speaking of which, how is the phone, the Pro in particular? Is it wider because of this flat screen? Are the bezels a problem now because of this flat screen? What's your gut feeling on this?
Well, yeah. So I think I think obviously I do think it is wider because of the flat screen. Whether or not it's the bezels are a problem or not is TBD for me. I haven't had enough time to, I haven't even unboxed it, after getting it yet. So I haven't had time to run it through its paces and things like that. But I don't have a 7 Pro to compare it to, right? And so I kind of want to chase the 7 Pro down to do the kind of side by side comparison, the feel. But like, I don't know. I like the flat screen. I like the idea. of the flat screen.
Yeah, me too. No, it's just more like my gut feeling having a 7 Pro right now is that it's a big phone and it's wide, and I'm like, I'm not against. I want a flat screen, but how much wider is the phone going to be?
Right.
And that's kind of the question. But
it's it's already. I'm old school, but it already still feels like a phablet. Like my daily driver right now, my daily driver is the Pixel 7 because I chose the smaller phone because I prefer the smaller phone, and I'm actually debating. Right now, I'm trying to, and I might on a future episode of Android Faithful, I might let the audience decide what I choose for my daily driver. But because I've got some foldables to choose from as well too. But like, I'm debating going to the Pro as my daily driver just because I haven't done a phone of that size in so long. I think the last phone that was like chunky, huge, big flagship style was like the Nexus 6P. I think I had that for a little bit, which at the time felt enormous, right? And probably I think is the size of the Pixel 8, but still. So I might give it a test run to see how it feels and to see if it does the width of it gets in the way or not, because it is pretty big. So
have we seen any differences or changes in terms of a battery capacity at all on these phones? Do you know, compared to previous years?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure they're going to say the battery runs great and all this sort of stuff. I've got my complaints about Android and batteries as it is anyway currently, because I was at a music festival in September, and so on the first day my battery ran down like 8 o'clock at night. I was down to 20%, so I turned battery saver on, made it through the rest of the night to get my Uber to go home. The next day I was like, let me try something, and I put battery saver on at 100% and went the entire day, and at 11 o'clock at night when I went to leave, my battery was at 73%.
Holy crap.
Which makes me wonder, what the hell is my phone doing during the day that ran that battery down so much? I still used it. I still used Instagram. I still did everything. So like, the size of the battery is one thing, but like, what is the power management at the OS level and the background apps and everything doing to drive it down as much, But I got to imagine that the batteries in these phones are competitive, are obviously competitive, right? So
so the rumor has it that they've increased the charging speeds a little bit.
Yep.
I believe up to 30 watt on the 8 Pro and a little less than that on the 8. And that's like about, I think, 7 or 8% more than last year's.
Yeah.
So you should charge a little faster.
Nominally. Nominally. But it's important to note that they didn't make any battery statements in the presentation whatsoever.
Yeah.
So.
And then Tensor G3. So they've made a lot of promises, because that's, for me, the biggest gripe I have with my Pixel phones in the last 2 years. I think that the Pixel 6 was, a significant device, well, the 6 series, because it really ushered the era of Google getting it right finally in terms of phones, right?
Yep.
I think we can all agree that that's a milestone for them. And 7 just perfected that, and 8 is perfecting that further. So I think we're on the right track.
Right.
But I also feel that when you compare it to a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 phone or whatever, thermal managements, at least on Tensor G2 and G1, and efficiency is just not there, especially the radio performance, and the fact that a lot of that overheating comes from poor reception and radio issues, right?
Yep, 100%.
So clearly they're aware of that. And have they said anything to you in that presentation or any of the people you talked to about having improved this with G3?
No. I mean, the story of the Tensor G3 is the power of Google's AI breakthroughs, and like that. Then the G3 is behind it all and going to make it all work. But there's, and what it's able to do with, with your photos and working with their data centers and all this sort of stuff, and speech and language. But there's nothing, and part of the problem, Miriam, what I think it is that stuff like thermal management and all, power consumption and things like that we're doing aren't really consumer-facing issues, even though they impact every consumer, and we need to ask these questions and get these answers and find out what they are. But for now, it's, they're just saying the Tensor G is more efficient and more powerful, and unlocking the power of AI, and look at what the phone can do because of the G3, which is a lot of smoke and mirrors at this point. I'm interested to see what everyone uncovers over, and everyone's got the race of like benchmark testing and doing everything and stuff like that. But you're right. I mean, I'm on the Pixel 7 with the Tensor, and the heat issue is a problem. It is a problem. You can feel it. So
it can feel it a lot, and it drives me nuts.
Yep.
Though we'll see. That's what the reviews are for. So stay tuned for that, folks. Yep. And then I want to quickly touch on the camera. So what strikes me it's interesting here is that we now get a significant improvement with the 8 Pro on the ultra wide. We're getting a 48 megapixel ultra wide versus 12, and we're getting, basically the main sensor on both Pixel 8s is supposedly, like, this is like today kind of like developed in the news, a GNV, which is a rare sensor. It's on one Technophone and a Vivo X80 Pro, which is last year's Vivo camera flagship. It's a sensor that is kind of undocumented, because we have the GN1 and the GN2. They're well known. We thought this was going to be GN2 because previously it was GN1, but it looks like they're gone to with this GNV. And I think that's good news. I think that, the GN series has been a solid sensor from Samsung. So I'm actually really looking forward to that. But I'm really excited about the 48 megapixel ultra wide, honestly.
I thought of you when that came up, actually, because that ultra wide lens, is going to give the, and they say it, they're touting that it's going to take 10x photos at optical quality, which I want to see before I believe. But it definitely has potential. That's for sure.
So have they improved the telephoto at all? No, right? It's the same 48 megapixel,
I think it's the same
5x. Yeah. But that's really good. As you said, you can do 10x already really well on the 7 Pro. So I think it's not going to change on the 8 Pro. It's going to be, if anything, it's going to be better. So I'm excited about that. I think that makes it very competitive, and that alone, and of course the $1 temperature sensor that they added, are definitely justifying the extra $100 right there. How do you feel about the rounded corners? Because one of the things that I do really like about the 6 Pro and the 7 Pro, and to a lesser extent the 6 and the 7, is that they're a little more squarish. And I'm not sure, I feel like when we have this nice radius that they have on the 8 and 8 Pro. We're kind of like in the same way as Samsung with the S23 series. We're kind of, except for the Ultra, we're kind of in that we're copying iPhone territory.
A little bit.
Which kind of bothers me.
Yeah.
Like, I like the squareness of Android phones, especially the big flagships. And why are you taking this away from us?
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny because I'm looking at my Pixel 7 and I feel like it's more rounded than squarish on my own on the Pixel 7. Admittedly, it's
I think
not
the 7 Pro is much more.
Yeah, I don't know. I think what you want is for somebody who doesn't use a case, who puts my phone in my front pocket a lot, the rounded corner actually provides a bit more of a functional, good slide in versus a harsh edge. Although I'm with you, like I do not want every phone to look the same. Like I do, like
that's my concern, right?
Yeah, I rallied for years ago against the homogenization of Android phones and everything looked the same. That's why I love the HTC when they came out with that with the M1 or whatever, and the Nextbit Robin was one of my favorites, and that's why. And I do think that the camera bezel and that silver strip, right, and the color choices and the colorways that they've chosen for this, sets the Pixel apart from the iPhone, or sets the Pixel apart from Samsung in a way that allows for the rounded corner.
I think looking from the back, you cannot mistake these for Pixels, which is fantastic.
There's no patch of holes in the corner, right? Anybody who's got the fear of holes, right? I always feel bad when they see a Samsung phone and all that stuff, right?
Or even the iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. The iPhone,
especially the Pros, right?
The iPhone's getting very Samsung-y in that regard. So like it looks, it has its own identity, and so the rounded corners don't bother me as much, but I respect your frustration.
I mean, I'm just, these are kind of the thoughts that are coming to mind when I see these phones. So 7 years, let's talk about that, because this is it's a big insane deal. And I don't want to, again, like, it's my job, it's your job for us to be critical, which doesn't mean that we have to be negative. Like, on one hand, I'm like, I applaud this 100%. Thank you for doing it. But then it's Google, and Google has canceled a lot of things along the way that we love dearly. So it's a long time for us to wait to see if they're actually going to stick with this. You know what I'm saying?
True. Well, and God help us if we're still podcasting in 7 years and we see if they follow through on this or not. But hey, I mean, hell, I did 13 years on all about Android, and now here I am with a new show with Android Faithful. So
there
we probably
you go.
Will be. But I think it's almost been like an arms race with years of supports and updates, and that's become a story of the past year, which is who's going to provide more updates and who, because we hit this lull, or we hit this period of phones getting 3 years of updates, right? And like and so like, can you imagine, somebody spending $1,000 on a device and it not being protected after 3 years? That's not a great consumer, kind of agreement to have, right? And so 7 years gives you the you're probably not going to have the Pixel 8 or the Pixel 8 Pro in 7 years. Let's be honest, right? Like you're going to, new every two, like everybody kind of feels the need to upgrade their phone every couple of years. But if for some reason you can't afford a new phone, or you end up going 4 years or whatever it is, knowing
or you're just lazy.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing that, or if you're a developer and need the phones for testing, it's good to know that they're still valid, right? So I don't know. I think of all the people to do 7 years, Google's the one that can do it because they have the resources, and there's no reason not to. Like I find it fascinating that here we are, 10 plus years into Android and however many years into the Pixel line, where we find like this should have been table stakes early on. Like those early support windows were just unacceptable. So
I'm glad this is the kind of escalation I can get behind, and I just hope they stick with it, because it's a lot to promise, right? Like I think 5 personally, I'd be fine with just 5.
Yeah.
It's a good round number that matches Apple.
It's a bold commitment, right? It's showing that they're committed to that in 7 years we'll be on the Pixel 15, presumably, right? Like it shows that they're committed. So I mean,
and it shows that the chipset being under their control means they can also control their destiny with the software, right?
Yep.
Because Qualcomm's not going to support the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 in 4 years.
Yep. Exactly.
Right? For OEMs. So
Yeah, and even if you look at the wording that Google used, they said that the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro are the most sustainable smartphone choice, right? Like they're showing the like you're making a responsible choice by going with Pixel because you can use this phone for 7 years and you won't need to upgrade, or you'll get that support into 2030, which is crazy. So
that's like Fairphone territory.
Exactly. Yeah, I had the same thought. I mean, so like I applaud them for doing it, but to your point too, let's see where we are in 5 or 6 years if they stick with it or not. So
for sure,
I think they have to because they announced it, right? So
well, yeah, let's see how it goes. Really.
Yep.
Let's talk about the watch a little bit. I had the original Pixel Watch for quite a while. On the plus side, I loved it. I still love it, but I'm not wearing it because now I have a Samsung Galaxy Watch 6 from, when I went to Korea for the Samsung event.
Yep.
And the reason I've changed is because this is bigger on my wrist. I'm showing it for the Patreons here. I don't know if it's blurred out or not, but yeah. So this is my Galaxy Watch 6 and classic with the bezel that rotates. Love it because it's the right size on my wrist. That was my biggest issue with Pixel Watch. I love the software. The hardware is beautiful, but it was really small on my wrist. And more importantly, that's stupid bezel, not bezel, but that stupid rounded glass scratched within two weeks of me owning it. I have a big gash on it. It's not obvious, but it's there. And I'm just like, nah, I've never had a watch get this damaged this quickly. Like what? So what I was hoping for this year was primarily 2 sizes, and that didn't happen because it's exactly the same in terms of form factor, right?
Yep.
Same bands, same.
It's got a new crown. It's got a new crown.
Oh yeah, what's up with that?
I guess I don't know.
No, but what was the deal? Like, did they say something? Like this? Is it smoother? Is it like smaller, bigger? What?
Yeah, no. I mean, really, all they say the crown is larger and more flush with it for easier access. Like, I think if anything, this is iterative from the first Pixel Watch, so it's not a complete design, overhaul.
Right.
I think that, like I agree with you. It would have been nice to see multiple sizes because people have different shaped bodies and wrists and women and men and all these different kind of things. But it seems like their main takeaway of their research in a year was that they needed easier access and navigation. So let's make the crown bigger. Like that seems like the extent of what they did, right? So,
well, they did add a whole bunch of new sensors.
Yeah, it's packed with sensors now.
Right, which is I think from what I gather, the original Pixel Watch was designed or started the design before the Fitbit acquisition.
Correct.
Whereas this watch has the full Fitbit hardware know-how baked into it.
Right.
And in fact, I heard this from my other friends who have the devices. The new Pixel Watch 2 doesn't use the same charging base as the old Pixel Watch. It was wireless on the old one, but not Qi compatible. So it was proprietary wireless. And this is pogo pins and contacts, which, that corrodes usually. So it's not necessarily a good idea. But Fitbit's done that quite a bit in the past and it's been fine. So it's really interesting to me that they changed that. They didn't change the physical form factor in the bands, but they actually changed the charging dock. Weird.
It's very, very weird. I don't know if that has to do with all the sensors they packed into it. If for some reason they needed to move away from the wireless, from the wireless, connectivity, component. Who knows? But that was the first thing I saw was like, oh, they got rid of wireless charging and now we're back to 4 pins on that charging base, which is just weird. And the thing is that like this is fully integrating Fitbit in a way that the Pixel One wasn't, Pixel Watch 1 wasn't already before. It
felt like an add-on on the Pixel Watch original.
Totally, yeah. And and they're pushing the deeper insights into health, the heart rate, the new heart rate sensor, and all this sort of stuff. And so they're really trying to tap into the fitness life. I don't care about that stuff. Like I don't,
neither do I.
Yeah.
But a lot of people do, so I'm happy they're doing it. It's like this Galaxy Watch 6 has tons of great health and fitness features that I don't use, but it's there. And if you want to use them, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised that, they kind of had to change the form factor a little bit. At the same time, is it same price? It's what, $349 and then $399 for the LTE?
Yep. Yeah, $349 for Bluetooth Wi-Fi, $399 for 4G LTE. Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
If
I'm gonna wait. I think for next year, unless they send me a reunit. I'm gonna wait for next year because I really do like what they're doing. I just want something bigger.
and I think that's probably the right call for you, because this is iterative. This is the second one out of the gate, right? It is still early,
Yeah.
you know, like, and there's probably an expansion, you know, in, if it's next year or the year after, to multiple sizes, or to like a more sporty version versus more fashion forward version. Even though they have all the bands that you can customize colors and type and style and things like that. I got the Pixel Watch 1 when it came out because I was excited, because while I don't care about the health stuff, I do like to go running. I like to listen to podcasts, and the idea of not taking my phone with me was really attractive. The lack of apps on Wear OS to do that well made me return the watch. I was like, this is a bad experience. Yeah. And so now that Pocket Casts they came out with a Wear OS app a couple of months ago, I'm very excited to dive into the Pixel Watch 2 and see like if it's going to, for my use case, if it's a better experience or not. So yeah, well, remains to be seen, but I'm willing to give another shot. So
I think that's good. I mean, if they send me a review unit, I'll play with it. If not,
sure,
I just mostly want an 8 Pro right now. That's all I care about. I do have the Pixel Fold and I love it dearly, but it is a brick in my pocket. And I really like, if it was lighter and thinner, I think that would be my daily right now. It's just so heavy and bulky.
I know a lot of people who love that phone. That Pixel Fold won over a lot of hearts and minds. And honestly, I was kind of surprised. Like, it's funny because it's almost like the R&D device. Like, we got it earlier in the year, like that and the tablet were the two kind of like, we're going, we're dipping our toes into this world. I was hoping there was going to be a surprise, or like a one more thing. And like you love the Pixel Fold so much, here's the Pixel Flip or whatever it might be, but they didn't go in that direction. But yeah.
This is a great segue, actually, because there is rumors that they might be working on a Pixel Flip. So, these rumors have been coming and going, but there's basically a new code name that has surfaced, Comet, for a new Pixel folding device. So maybe that is our Pixel Flip. I think the flip form factor is very accessible. Every time I show a flip phone to the average human out there, they're like, oh, that's cool. I mean, if they're iPhone users, they'll never change unless Apple makes one.
Until they do it, right? Yeah.
But if they're not, they actually might try it out, because if they're on Android, why not? So I think that could be exciting.
I think they're crazy if they don't. Like, you're seeing the runaway success that Samsung is having and Motorola, and maybe I'm being a little hyperbolic by saying runaway success, but like, foldables, I think, are here to stay. And I think that there are two form factors right there. And I'll give credit to Michael Fisher, Mr. Mobile, like his review of the Pixel Fold really connected it for me, where it's like, he said, oh, this is a digital Moleskine, right? This is a productivity device, right? But then the Flip is more of a casual, a casual user. And what I would be interested in, if Google is pursuing a Flip form factor, what you got to do now is you need to differentiate that front-facing screen, right? Because now we've seen Samsung's approach to it with the curated apps. We've seen Motorola's approach to it, where put whatever you want on that front screen.
Yeah, anything goes.
Yeah, we've seen the circular screen from like Techno and from like other manufacturers and things like that. So like, I want to see, like, okay, Google, pixelize the Flip form factor and do something that no one else has thought of, and that's what I want to see what they do. So
yeah, me too. Yeah. I mean, right now, Oppo announced the Find N3 Flip a while back, and that is the first flip phone with like a proper triple camera system. That is like Hasselblad branded and stuff. And so for me, what I think Pixel Flip, I'm thinking really good cameras on a Pixel flipping foldable, and that is pretty damn exciting. Hey, quickly before we jump onto some Samsung stuff, I was wondering, you mentioned the buds earlier. Are the buds new? Are there new buds?
There are new buds.
Just new colors. Okay,
there are new buds. There are new. They come in new colors too. But the Google Pixel Buds Pro 2 is what announced. And so basically, there was a whole bunch of interesting. So additionally, they have more colors that, if you care about that sort of stuff, that align with the different colors for the phones, as blue and things like that. But they enhance the voice calling. For clearer voice calling now. They added Bluetooth super wideband support.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so that wider bandwidth is going to make the clear calling. It will reduce the background noise and let you hear people easier. They're also, of course, using AI for the conversation detection feature. So, so when you start, if you're listening to music and you start talking, it'll pause the music. It'll pick up on what's going on around you and let you control it that way from there. And they've also got, they have improved the audio transmission from the phone to the earbuds themselves, particularly around gaming. So less of a delay,
latency. Yeah,
exactly. Yep. And then there's some features around what they call hearing wellness, will help you protect your hearing, and lower the volume when you need to, and things like that. And then they also added a app for Chromebooks to support Pixel Buds. So yeah, they're in the Pixel Buds are in the mix. So
that's so fun. The Chromebooks. I miss my Pixel Book and Pixel Book Go. I mean, I have them, but I want them to make another Pixel Book 2-in-1 folding.
I would love that. Yeah.
Awesomeness with like some kind of crazy ARM chip in there. That'd be great.
I just want some reason to ditch my MacBook Pro. Like for some reason, I'm just like I'm stuck on a MacBook Pro and I cannot give it up. And I want to go to a Chrome, kind of a Chromebook based thing, but I just can't make the jump. So
that's totally Apple's way, right? Yep. I'm the same. I'm on the Mac hardcore.
Yeah.
Galaxy S23 Fan Edition got lost in the middle of all this crap. And here's the thing, like we've seen the leaks and rumors. Can I ask you how you feel about this? Because it's blowing my mind. It feels like Samsung was like, we can't really sell an Exynos in North America because carriers and also the general state of journalism, they're going to eat us alive if we do that.
Yep.
What could we? Qualcomm has a bunch of leftover 8 Gen 1s. Let's use those. Like, what the F were they thinking here? Like, you don't put an 8 Gen 1. That was one of the worst chips Qualcomm made in recent years. And nope, we're getting that on the S23 FE, folks. Wow.
Yep. I'm not enthused by the FE at all. And mainly it's from a marketing standpoint because I think Fan Edition is the stupidest name ever. Especially since this is really not a Fan Edition anymore. No, it's not. These are light editions. That's what they are. That's what they are. And what's happening now is that Samsung has fallen into the trap of they've got too many dang versions of their stuff, and they have their A series, right? And so they can't go in that direction. They probably don't want to use the word light because that denotes negative, not as robust or whatever it might be. I mean, like for me, this is like if somebody likes Samsung and can't afford the main line, this is an option for them, but I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. So
yeah, I feel very conflicted about this one. When the S20 FE came out during COVID, that was like, it made sense.
Yeah, yeah.
S21 FE was like, meh. There was no 22 FE, 23 FE. I like that purple color, but
I do. I just pulled that one off. It looks nice, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you are getting, close to an S23 with a slightly bigger screen between S23 and S23 Plus. But I feel it's like, come on, could you not have given us an 8 Plus Gen 1? That would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Now
that's
the rest of the specs are good.
Yeah, I'm not as harsh on the tablet side of it. That said, because I'm pro tablet. Like I know the tablet world is an uphill battle and justifying their existence and things like that. So I do think a more affordable tablet option is great, especially compared to the Tab S9 prices and things like that. But the phone size is just a head scratcher, just baffling.
Yeah.
So
and $600 at that point you buy OnePlus 11, right?
Right. Exactly.
Like, come on. Yeah, but it's interesting that you mentioned the Tab S9 FE, and there's also Galaxy Buds FE. They not only have they doubled down on the FE branding, which doesn't mean anything anymore. They've gone for an entire lineup, Ron. They are nuts. They are nuts. I don't get it. But speaking of nuts and Samsung, generally that goes hand in hand. But Samsung Galaxy S24 rumors of titanium. I only put it in there because it's, I wouldn't do rumors this early on S24. But I laughed so hard when I read that because I'm like, of course they would do that. They would do that because they're Samsung and Apple just did it.
Right, exactly.
So do you think this is real?
I laughed out loud when I saw it too. And I do think it's real because it's so comically ridiculous. Like I do think it's low hanging fruit and it's clickbait type thing, but like I kind of buy it because it's trend following, right? And Apple is doing it. They're seeing what the marketplace goes with that, and also like I feel like the look of it is reminiscent to what 8 years ago when we had the metal bezel kind of phones and things like that. Yeah. It's like everything is cyclical, right? So now it's time for this to cycle through, just in the titanium version. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is real. So.
Yeah, but here's my thought: like maybe they're gonna totally troll us. It's actually gonna be a color called titanium.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
The rest of it is just the color, right?
Yep.
But look, I don't know. The last rumor I covered for the S24, again, a bit early, but it seemed interesting, was that the S24 Ultra might lose the 10x telephoto and be replaced with the 5x. Yeah. That way you don't have that zoom gap. It's like you get 1x, crop for 2x, 3x, crop for 6x maybe, or, you get 5x in this case, so you don't even need that. And then you can crop for 10x, and then you get a nice linear evolution, which I think is one of the things I love about some of the Chinese phones that I've seen, where they don't space them out as far, so you don't have that weird in-between gap of like doing a 4x photo. Like that's the problem with, I think, with the Pixel 7 Pro and maybe the 8 Pro is jump from 2x to 5x is a big jump.
Sure.
When the 6 Pro had a 4x, I think it was a little easier in that sense.
Yeah.
So, but ultimately, I'm probably not going to talk much about Galaxy S24 until maybe closer to January or something.
Right. Yeah, which I think is right, given the rumor cycle. And it is a little early, I feel like, but we'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to ask you that because we've been following OnePlus since day one, both of us, right? Everybody probably that's listening has as well, both your audience and my audience. But come on, like this teaser they did with Lou at Unbox Therapy, it's just so OnePlus, but at the same time, it's so forced. Like, come on, why did you do that?
Well, it's like it's also like the I will give them credit that they are building up hype around the OnePlus is foldable, right? They're entering the the folding marketplace, and they're gonna like all these rumors and all these kind of things and stuff like that. And I'll get OnePlus. We used to joke on All About Android about like the number of days since OnePlus had a marketing flub. Like it's been 21 days, right? Back in the day, and OnePlus had a time period where they were boring, right? It was after Carl left, and they were really having a crisis of confidence in terms of the direction they were going to go in. And there were a couple of years there where OnePlus wasn't really doing anything. They were just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, doing their thing. So I'm kind of glad to see them back in the mix in terms of like building up the hype. Did you see the Indian actress who was spotted holding the phone?
Yes, that's the other thing that happened this week.
Yeah. So in a very orchestrated PR stunt, or slip leak, you be the judge, right? But she held the phone very specifically to the window,
strategically. Yeah. So. What I think the good takeaway for this for me, I'm looking at this. Clearly, the camera area has been covered by something, but it's pretty thin, and I'm got the alert sliders there, which I pretty much expected.
Yeah. But
it does look like a really high-end phone. Like it looks really nice, and I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing so far. So, as much as we can make fun of the marketing and the approach, I think it's working. We're talking about it.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And the Unbox Therapy video that we're talking about, like really, which had Pete Lau from OnePlus come on to talk about it, focused on the hinge, right? And this is. Everything we're hearing about the OnePlus Foldable is that it is, sister device to the Oppo Find N3.
Yeah,
right?
Right.
And so they're leveraging the learning that Oppo has had with the Find, which is now on the third generation, and how they've developed that hinge technology. And in this video, they're showing that that the hinge has no gap, right? Which, if you remember, if you remember back when Samsung came out with the Fold and stuff like that, like those gaps were embarrassing, right? And so, like,
apparently it doesn't have much of a crease either. I've heard.
Yep.
So my question to you is this: I mentioned earlier the Oppo Find N3 Flip, right?
Yep.
We saw the announcement, we saw the photos, but we haven't seen reviews or actually like pictures of people doing hands-on or anything. Obviously, it's probably coming. But here's my question for you: do you think, since they're now sharing things, apparently, maybe with this folding book style phone that's the OnePlus Open, supposedly, that might be, identical to an Oppo Find N3, do you think we're going to see an open flip, from OnePlus that's almost, if not identical, close to identical to the Oppo one? Because the Oppo one has an alert slider on it,
Right.
the flip one.
Yep.
So I'm wondering, do you think they should do that? Do you think the market is ready for that?
I think you have to. I think I know. I do. I think you have to. Same thing with Google. We're talking about that. If you look, like Samsung rolled out the Fold and then they introduced the Flip. Right. Motorola went right to the Flip. The Flip format with the Razr and things like that. But like you have two distinct form factors now with foldables, where there's the book style fold and the cosmetic, kind of flip style. And I think that, if OnePlus comes out with this, with this open, with the fold, kind of Pixel Fold S kind of book style one, and it looks to be really nice, and it's also going to be really expensive, the Flip, because of the smaller size, the lesser components, gives them an entry point at a lower price point in the foldable arena, right? Even if it's, it's still going to be pricey because the foldable technology is still expensive, but I think they have to, if it was up to me, and who knows where they are with their product development, stuff like that, I would love to see them both at the same time. But I also understand the walk before you run kind of approach, where do one out, see what the response is, and iterate.
I think that's
and build.
what they're doing.
Yeah,
and I think because they think their core audience is the more tech savvy early adopters, that a book style makes more sense. And I kind of get it. But I also feel like if OnePlus wants to be relevant, because they really are far behind, Apple, Samsung, Google, even at this point. I'm not sure if that's the right strategy. I feel like Pete Lau doesn't really understand the West and North America. And if Oppo and OnePlus being one now means that Oppo sells in China and in Asia and parts of Europe, and then OnePlus sells in the other parts of Europe and in North America, then we should differentiate the products, not just on software, but also on hardware a little bit. You don't have to go too much, but I feel like they're missing opportunities. And I think Carl having gone his way to do nothing, pardon the pun, like is winning here because he's doing something with nothing.
Right.
I think he's totally understanding the market. Do you remember when the original Nord came out? I'm not talking about the Nord N series, like the actual Nord. And that was Carl's baby, remember?
Yep.
And he nailed it. He nailed it. The only reason we didn't get this phone in North America is because the carriers, which at the time they were in bed with, OnePlus 8 and stuff, they wanted something at a higher price point because of the subsidies. But the Nord would have been perfect to complement a OnePlus 8 Pro or something back in those days.
I mean, I think OnePlus is still reeling at the loss of Carl, and that they are, and that, and I'm glad to see them to get back in the ring in this way. But you're right, that, I do think that there's a disconnect between what the Western consumer wants and how that might play. That said, I also, like, as much as I appreciate Carl and I like what Nothing is doing, I think Nothing is going very far in the other direction.
Oh yeah, especially with CMF and the other stuff. Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm excited to watch it and see how it goes and see what the response is. Right? I think that for OnePlus with this foldable, I think it's a big moment for them because we're seeing them branch out to more than just the phones that we've known, right? They did that keyboard, right? They've got the and so like they're shaping into more of a electronics company, right? And this is going to be a big part of it. And so I think they do have a strategy. Whether or not it's right or wrong is open to question, but I feel like it's more energy than we've seen in the past 4 years from them. So,
this is good. But at the same time, I want them to show a sign that they understand our market.
Yeah.
And so to me, for this OnePlus Open, it's going to be a matter of the pricing and, does it have features like what we expect at this price point in this market, like wireless charging, right?
Yep.
And so we'll see from there if that comes to fruition or not. I was really bummed with the OnePlus 11 not having wireless charging, simply because there was no Pro. So I assumed for this market they would give us wireless charging like the 10 Pro and the 9 Pro had, but they didn't. Right. And I plugged it on my charger and it didn't charge, and I was mad.
Well, I'll be curious to see when this gets announced, what the reaction is, and similar to Google and the 7-year kind of approach, what is OnePlus's commitment to this, right? Like, what do they have to do something that grabs the attention and be like, oh wow, they're serious about this, and I'm curious to see what shape that will take. So.
Me too. Well, this is, I think, a good note to end the show. Do you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet, your various social media handles, and the new podcast, and all that? Of course,
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I'm on all the social media stuff at RonXO, all one word, RONXO. I'm out there I'm mostly active on Instagram just because it's the easiest, but I'm still on X. I'm on Mastodon. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on stuff like that. I need to spend more time posting. I'm just too busy. But so I'm on out there. But the big thing though, if you like my nonsense related to Android, please go to AndroidFaithful.com. That is a new podcast co-hosted by myself, Wintood Dow, and Mishal Rahman, who you might know Mishal from his very detailed tweets and Reddit posts as he digs into the Android software side of things. And Win is an amazingly talented developer. And we do a show every Tuesday. We've got guests. Miriam, we're going to get you on the show soon. We love to hear from other folks. We talk about hardware, apps, all the news, just the Android stuff in general. We just love Android so much that we can't stop talking about it. So it's over at AndroidFaithful.com. We're kind of under the Daily Tech News Show banner with Tom Merritt and his crew. We live stream out on his YouTube channel and Twitch channel, but it's all over at AndroidFaithful.com. So if you do anything, go to that website, subscribe to the podcast, find us there, and thank you for doing it. And thank you, Miriam, for having me on the show. This is fun.
Oh, absolutely. And I'd love to be on your show. And folks, absolutely subscribe to the Android Faithful. Check out their content. If I've turned lobster red over the duration of this episode, it's because I am facing the sunset and it's literally setting right now as I speak.
Oh, that's idyllic.
And so it's very interesting. Yeah, well, because, I'm in Vancouver right now, my second residence, and I'm on the waterfront. So I'm literally seeing the sun. And when I started, it was bright in the sky, and look at that. Because it's the first time I've done a podcast in the evening in a while. So
glad to get you out of your comfort zone. So
no, it was really nice. Yeah. No, I like it. Yep. Folks, you know where to find me on the internet. I'm at Tankgirl. That's TNKGRL, like the comic book character. Just drop the vowel so you get the handle. That's my handle on most social networks. I'm still active on Twitter/X, for better or for worse, mostly because a bunch of you folks are there. I'm on Threads, I'm on Insta, I'm on Facebook, etc., or Blue Sky as well. But if you want to see pretty pictures of phones or of cars, which I also review, EVs and stuff, and travel and food, since I travel a lot, check out my Instagram. And then, the podcast is at mobiletechpodcast.com. We're on all the big platforms. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, etc. And we love some Pocket Casts, actually. I'm glad that there's a watch app. I didn't know that. That's cool. I'm going to check it out. And then, there's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcasts. If you want some complimentary content that's free, videos like hands-ons, unboxing, stuff like that about the devices, check it out. You know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell. Comment about anything, the podcast, whatever you want. Just I'll chat with you. And then there is also a Patreon. If you want to help me out, patreon.com/Tankgirl. That's patreon.com/TNKGRL. You can get a video version of this podcast where you can see me and Ron being silly and me turning into a lobster and all that good stuff. And that's coming out a day or two ahead of the free audio version. And sometimes I leave in bloopers. If I go overtime, I leave extra content there for you. So consider helping me out on Patreon. There's also other perks like our Discord server and a bunch of stuff. So check it out. And if you don't want to use Patreon, there's a very simple way for you to contribute. Just give me a donation on PayPal. There's a link in the show notes for that. Buy me a coffee, whatever it might be. So that's it. I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So, as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And I want to thank you, Ron, for being my guest this week. That was awesome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. It was a delight. Thank you. Anytime you want me back on, I'll happy to come. So.
Awesome. We'll do it for sure. And folks, I'll have another show next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.